Good morning, KC9VKV. Oh boy, I need to touch up that call. I apologize. The name is ART, Alpha or Radio Tango. The call is N4QNT, November 4, Quebec, November Tango. Over.
Roger, Art. Good morning, sir. Sounding good down towards Louisville, Roger.
Oh, yeah, you as well. Nice signal. Probably the strongest I've seen on the band so far. You're anywhere from 15 and then peaking 20 over S9. Over.
Roger. Where might you be, sir?
I'm in North Carolina, just near the city of Winston-Salem, and just enjoying a day off, actually. Usually in the thick of things, but get to play a little radio today, so a day off from work, just enjoying a beautiful Friday morning. Go ahead.
Roger. Now, did you fare well with Florence?
Oh, yeah. We were very lucky over here, very fortunate. Of course, the high wall and the bulk of the storm on the coastline. We're about almost 300 miles inland, so in this area, just some outer bands, a little wind and some rain. So we were okay, and a couple of little microbursts or semi-tornadoes, I guess you could say, just the southeast of us, but not bad at all. We're okay.
Roger. Well, you know, when you have hills and valleys there, when you have those big rains, and they were talking about 2 to 3 feet of rain. That's unbelievable, Roger.
Yeah. I guess some of the models or whatever they were trying to predict was basically showing this storm just sitting, and it moved slowly, but it didn't make as much rain as they figured. In this area, of course, yeah. Here they were talking anywhere from 18 to 24 inches, but the eye wall, of course, when it surges and comes inland, and they got a good dose down there, in the Wilmington area and all that proximity, but not too bad here. We were the outer, I guess, the creeks and the lakes and such and everything around here. Some of the rivers, they didn't overflow, and everything is good in this particular area.
Oh, Roger that. Yeah, I can't think of anything more depressing than to have to go through a flood. I mean, I have, in my youth, my father impressed upon me the fact that you don't want to put yourself in a position of experiencing floods. And because of that, we are a product of our youth and all of our learning and our father's influences. So I always made it an absolute definite thing not to put one's home in jeopardy at all if possible, and so consequently we live on a bluff that's probably about 300 feet above average terrain. So if we do get flooding up here, the world is going to be in a sad situation, Roger.
Oh yeah, no, I totally understand that, Jim. It's oh my gosh, but yeah, the weather, but we'll see. We're almost out of this season, and here, and we don't really think a lot about it, but of course, once in a while, a storm will come in through the center, and part of it be Atlantic, and then make its way through this area. But gosh, I grew up down in South Florida, so 35, almost 40 years down there near Miami. So we've dealt with many storms, and we kind of know the routine. But down there, the pancake state, basically, anything coming near Miami, the eye wall hits the coastline, and it actually will accelerate because it's all flat, and then it gets over the warmer waters of the Everglades and accelerates even more, and then goes out to the Gulf and causes damage to people north. So north, it's unreal how that works. But yeah, so we were finished with the storms, and that's why we came up here. But once in a while, we'll get one or two every 10 years maybe to deal with. Not too bad. So listen, I heard you mention the audio thing, and I'm into it. I experiment. I like to play with different mics and processing, and maybe a couple of pieces of outboard gear going into the balance input of the back of the rigs and all that good stuff. You mentioned there's a website or something where this is actually, I could look it up and listen, down the line, I guess, once things are uploaded. Over.
Oh, Roger, Art. We have a Qso-Vlog page on YouTube, and we are recording now. And if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. That will bring up our Qso-Vlog page. And we have about 240 Qsos now. This one, since we usually run across a bunch of stations during our hour and a half, we usually broadcast between 10:30 and noon, and we get so many call signs usually that we have started to label the titles by the date and by the frequency. So this one would be dated 9/21/18, 9/21/18, and the frequency 7189. So when you go to the Qso-Vlog page, just look for my group, 9/21/18, and frequency 7189. Roger, Roger.
Oh, fantastic, Jim. Boy, where have I been? I think I stumbled across a couple of videos. Now that I'm thinking about it, I do recall, I was always wondering, what that setup was. I believe seeing you actually on video. That's right, as you're QSOing and recording. That's awesome. I'll certainly check into that and check out the date, like you said. Good reference, anyway. I listen through the monitor, or with this particular radio, what's nice is the full duplex. So on this Flex, the 6000 series Flex radios with the smart SDR software, you can actually transmit milliwatts on the transverter side on one slice, and then set up a second receiver on that particular frequency that you're transmitting on duplex, and really critique the audio well. So it's almost like having a second radio in a way, and working it through a dummy load, of course, with low power, and then headphones, and then critique the settings. So on this one, it's pretty nice. You could just do it on the fly with the mouse and set all that up. But just picked up a condenser, actually. I always use Dynamics over the years. A lot of the RE equipment, the Shure SM7D, PR40, and things like that. And for the first time about a month ago, I'm trying out a condenser, so incorporating that into the mixer and getting things going. So hopefully it's sounding okay. I know the compression levels and like you're saying, the dB levels earlier with the last gentleman. Yeah, there is a gauge, and basically the old minus 40 dB on the low, and then minus 10 out to 0. So we usually keep it right at the edge, just towards the edge of the zero, which at that point you're capturing the full bold signal of audio, and if you hit the red and go out to the right, then you're kind of in the over territory, and the red light will start blinking. So we just keep it on the fringe, so everything is hopefully sounding okay. KC9VKV N4QNT, ART in North Carolina.
Roger, Roger, Art. Yeah, your audio is just perfect. I mean, it's just the EQ is very nice, and I think you'll find with that condenser mic, there's a lot more articulation than dynamic mics. This is a homebrew condenser microphone here, and I think condenser microphones, by and large, have the ability to capture the nuances a little bit better than dynamics. Although dynamic is a good mic if it's a good mic. I mean, some dynamics have really a nice accentuated top end, and some don't. And the thing about the Qso-Vlog recording is that you, when you visit the site and bring up your audio, you can listen impartially, even to the point of not having to lose concentration by actually having to speak, because you've already spoke. And so you're just listening clinically to what's happening there without any distractions. Roger?
Oh, yeah. Exactly, yeah. Sometimes if there's a little latency or lag, with SDR stuff especially, you're trying to talk and it's like there's a hesitation and you're stumbling and trying to, because of the delay. Yeah, so I see what you're saying. Just kind of sit back, enjoy, basically. And I usually like to receive well, too. A little mixing board, of course, and input all the equipment into that and control different levels. If I want to throw in a little effect, I can do that, with the outboard speakers or a good set of headphones. So I will be listening closely. Of course, the output from the sound card on the PC goes into the board, too. So I like to do that if I'm gaming or something, or want to really enhance a video or any kind of music. So it's real nice to control all the components on the desk with a mixing board. Over.
Oh, roger that. Roger that. The Qso-Vlog recording circuitry that I'm using now is there's a bunch tied to the input of my radio and a bunch tied to the output, and then a kilowatt 2 foot away, you know, and it was a challenge, but I think we've managed to succeed in most of the problems of audio versus RF. And on the receiver, you know, a lot of folks, you know, in order to give a correct decimeter reading, you have to have your RF gain pretty much max. But, you know, sideband is kind of like copying CW in that in CW, you just want to introduce enough RF in the front end RF gain to get the job done, and otherwise you're just bringing noise up. And sideband without having a carrier is in the same situation. So you just want to introduce as much RF as needed to get the job done, so it doesn't tend to suck up between the words or stuff like that. And what I have done is tied my audio gain and my RF gain together. And then I'm usually running antenna attenuate, maybe 12 dB or so. And with the RF gain and the AF gain tied together, you know, I'm usually just below AGC compression, which is just the ideal situation, Roger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I do agree. You want the peak levels held. You don't want them starving. I like the old, well, there's so much jargon out there, but we do hear it once in a while, some of the stations, and, you know, I call it starving for audio, and, boy, you just lose it in the noise. And if you can create a little more punch and some helpful gains, it keeps, I don't want to call it a carrier, and we know that's AM stuff, but it keeps peak levels up and a good push of audio through the, you know, ups and downs of the sideband signal. So, yeah, it's fun. It really is fun. I've been playing around with the audio stuff for a while, and it's part of the hobby. That's what we're here to do. It's all about experimentation. Over.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the only thing you got going is your audio, you know. I mean, it's audio from one point to the other point and back and forth, you know. The whole thing is about audio and getting the best audio you can, you know, within the ability of the device that you're operating. And so, you know, ALC is one's friend, and, you know, particularly folks that they change microphones a great deal, and they don't realize that every time you change a microphone, you're introducing a brand new situation possibility as far as level, because not all mics are created equal as far as audio output. So it's really important that you you know, you be friends with your ALC on a daily or you know, a weekly basis, just to double check to make sure everything is copacetic. Roger.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I agree 100%. It's funny you mention that, because this particular box I'm using, it's a Vorsys M1 by Wheatstone, and what's so nice about the GUI software that's hooked up to it, you basically don't even touch the voice processor. It's all done with the mouse, and you can critique the parametric EQ and compression levels and all that stuff, and then set a profile. So I'll actually have a dynamic mic profile, which is a whole different setting. Once I went to the Sennheiser, you know, the condenser mic, the level controls are not even close. So basically you just nickname it what you want, you know, dynamic, whatever, Shure profile, and then the Sennheiser profile, and then as soon as you click on it, it adjusts all the settings on the fly automatically. So it's a nice little thing to have that. I guess it's called a talent, which of course, you know, in the broadcasting industry, in the booths across the country, all the radio stations, every voice is different. Some guys bring their own mic. You know, they're kind of sensitive about speaking in the mics where they've been and who's been talking on them. So they hook up their own mic, click, and they click on their profile, and they're ready to go. Over.
Roger that. Now, I spent 50 years in commercial broadcasting, and I never did that, but I must admit that some of those mics had a very strange muff smell, Roger.
I figured I'd get a chuckle out of you with that, or bring your own cover, right? Your own pop screen, at least, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and earphones for sure. I was at one time. I never could get enough earphone level out of the board, and so I ran across. Well, I built a little amp that would plug into the board phone. And then I could turn that thing up, and the trick was to keep the level. Well, I had Cush earphones, so I could really turn it up without getting feedback. But you couldn't move your head sideways, or you would be in feedback.
Oh yeah, the old proximity effect, and I love wearing cans while I'm operating, so I go through the same thing. I always just try to keep the nose pointed, directly towards the center of the mic, and don't waver too much. So I will, once in a while, if I'm turning to another computer screen, oh yeah, it lights up the feedback. All right, well, I'll tell you, Jim, I'm on my first time here, a newbie with you, so I'm hoping I did okay, and I'm really eager to hear the playback. I'm certainly making a note of this, and I will get on that page and sit back with a cup of coffee, and man, this has been a great 10-minute plus QSO, so I'll have a lot to listen to. And hey, and for that matter, I certainly appreciate what you're doing. I think this is great. And I'll get in here. Apparently, I'm always working. That's the issue. I'm actually off today, which I'm not off on Fridays usually. So, first time stumbling into this, and I'm really happy I did. So, I'll certainly listen out and let somebody else get in here. This is good stuff. I really appreciate what you're doing. 7-3, Jim. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll listen out. KC9VKV, N4QNT, ART in North Carolina.
Roger, Art. 3 sideways here, and you were solid in for the whole transmission. So you got a lot to listen to and good audio. So we'll say 3s for now, and we'll have this posted up on YouTube in the next couple of days. And like I say, it'll be probably about an hour and a half piece. And it'll be identified as the date. My group 92118 and the frequency 7189. So 3's Art, we'll catch you later, and this is KC9VKV.